Hello everyone. This is Dr. N. Nagajodi from the Department of English, Sri Kalishwari College, Shivagasi. Have you ever wondered how words are actually built? We often think of words as single complete units. But in linguistics, words are like small structures made from tiny meaningful parts. Today, we are going to explore three important concepts in morphology, that is, morphemes, morphs, and allomorphs. To understand these concepts easily, let us use a simple chocolate analogy. Let's imagine chocolate. The idea of chocolate itself, its sweet taste and identity, represents the morpheme. The actual physical shape of the chocolate bar, represents the morph. And if the wrapper or outer appearance changes slightly depending on the situation, that represents the allomorph. So remember this simple formula. Morpheme represents the meaning of the word. Morph represents the form. Allomorph represents variation in sound or form. This mental model will help you to understand the concept easily. Let us start with the morpheme. A morpheme is the smallest meaningful unit in a language. It is an abstract concept in simple words. It exists in the mind. For example, look at the word student. The word students, at first glance, it looks like one word, but actually it contains two morphemes. Hope you could understand. That is, the word student means a person who studies. But the word students mean many students. Here the letter S represents plurality. Also, that is more than one students it represents. So the word students contain two separate ideas. One, the person who studies, and another idea is it represents plurality. So student is one morpheme and yes is another morpheme. Together they create the complete meaning. So a morpheme cannot be divided further without losing meaning. For example, if we divide the word student into smaller random pieces like stu or dent dent, those parts no longer carry the intended meaning. Hope you could understand. So, morphemes are the basic building blocks of meaning in language. Hope you understand what is morpheme. Let's move on to what is a morph. The second concept, morph. A morph is the actual spoken or written form of a morpheme. If the morpheme is the idea, the morph is the physical shape that appears in speech or writing. For example, the word book has one morph, and the morpheme is also only one. The physical form directly matches the meaning. This is the simplest case. But the language is not always the straightforward. Sometimes one morph can express more than one morpheme. Now, look at the word went. Here we understand two meanings. That is, one is go, and another one is it represents past tense. But physically, the word appears as only one unit went. We cannot separate the past tense marker from it. So here, one morph carries two morphemes. This shows that physical form and meaning do not always match perfectly. Now, let's move on to the next concept, allomorph. What is an allomorph? An allomorph is a variation in the pronunciation or form of a morpheme. The meaning stays the same, but the sound changes depending on the environment. Let's understand this with plural forms. We usually write plural using the letter S, but we pronounce it differently in different words. Do you know? For example, cats. How to pronounce the last letter S? Cats. That is the normal pronunciation of S. But in the word dogs, we should not pronounce this as usual S pronunciation. It is morphed into the pronunciation of Z, that is dogs. And look at the next word, horses. So here the plural form is ES. ES represents the pronunciation Z. I is it, not Z. I is it. So we have to pronounce it as horses. All three words express the same meaning, that is the plural form, but the sound changes. These different pronunciations are called allomorphs of the plural morpheme. The change happens because of pronunciation convenience. Linguistics calls it the phonological conditions. In simple words, nearby words influence pronunciation. The same thing happens with the past tense ed. Now look at these words. Although we write ed in many verbs, we pronounce it differently. For example, in the word past, we have to pronounce the last two letters ed as T. The pronunciation T, past. And in the word called, it should be pronounced as called. And in the word wanted, we have to pronounce it as wanted with the pronunciation id. So what is the key takeaway here? The pronunciation changes according to the surrounding sounds. This is another example of allomorphs. Now, what is phonological conditioning and what is morphological conditioning? Now let us compare these two important ideas. First, phonological conditioning. This happens when pronunciation changes because of nearby sounds. For example, in the word cats and in the word dogs. In the word cats, we have to pronounce it as yes. In the word dogs, we have to pronounce it as dogs. These patterns are predictable. Now let us look at morphological conditioning. Here changes are not predictable. They must simply be memorized. For example, ox. The plural form should be oxen. And for the word mouse, the plural form should be mice. For the word child, the plural form should be children. These plural forms do not follow the regular S pattern. That is why they are morphologically conditioned. Hope you could understand these two concepts. Let's move on to the next case, simpleton and xeromorphs. Language also contains some unusual cases like this. So one of them is called simpleton. Simpleton means complete replacement. For example, how the word go changed into the complete another word went in case of past tense. There is no sound similarity between go and went. The entire form changes. Another interesting case is the xeromorph. For example, the singular word for sheep is sheep and plural is also sheep. Both singular and plural forms look exactly the same. The plural meaning exists, but there is no separate visible marker here, like yes or pronunciation difference, anything. That invisible marker is called a zeromorph. So, let's revise quickly. Morpheme, it represents meaning, and morph represents physical form. Allomorph represents sound variation or variation in form. So, understanding morphemes, morphs, and allomorphs help us to see the hidden structure behind languages. I hope this video made these linguistic concepts simple and interesting for you. Thank you for your watching.